What's up, pretty gang? It's your favorite nail tech Peaches, back with another video. It's 9 a.m. on a Friday, and I'm here to show you guys how I did this reconstruction. This is how she actually came to me, and this is what I was able to do to work my magic. And then we went ahead and painted the big toe, of course, because we need to match what she already had. Before we get into it, make sure you guys follow me on social media, subscribe, and turn the notifications on so you don't miss out. I'm in Sacramento, California for those who want to book me, and my description below has coupons, money off discount. We have a not polished discount code now, but you guys, we gotta use it or lose it, because they said in 30 days, if it's not, it's not popping, then Miss Mamas, we're gonna have to take it away. All right, so this client booked a basic big toe reconstruction acrylic pedicure, which means she has a basic pedicure with acrylic only on the big toes in a reconstruction manner. Okay, so she is already pedicured, and after the pedicure, I always make sure that I just go a little bit deeper into these grooves and sidewalls to make sure there is nothing in the way of what I'm getting ready to do. Okay, I pretty much do that for all reconstructions who had pedicures, because oftentimes there's going to be a lot of dead skin even after the pedicure. Okay, so first things first, we need to go ahead and prep and prime. You guys already know how to do that. The main difference in this particular case with reconstructions, you want to make sure you're getting extra in some of those grooves. Any bit of toenail you see, prep it and prime it really well, because you don't want anything to have like an area to where something can, come off or become weak or not stick well, because it's already bad enough the person is kind of missing pieces of toenail, but you don't want what you're about to give them to not last. So I wipe away as much dust as possible. You don't need to be like, oh my gosh, there's so much dust there. You guys, it's not a big deal. Got rid of most of it. You can see right here as we primed, everything's okay and it's fine. Okay, so this particular client, she has not had this toenail in full for about like 10 years. I think she got injured, and when she went to the doctor, they're like, sorry, I don't know if it's gonna grow back, and it never did. All right, so pretty much in this case, you see how she has that dip in the middle of her toe, to where like there is an area almost like a circle, like a well, where the big toe meat is kind of surrounding all of that. So because of that, I am going to have to make sure that I work carefully. If there is a lot of acrylic getting caught and trapped, you see that in that well area, it's not going to be fun, especially for wearing tennis shoes, because any pressure right there, she's going to feel it in a deeper area of her toenail. Okay, so I went ahead and used this bead and started filling in the cuticle area, which normally I do that last, but in this case I need to do this first, so that way I can make a base layer for everything else to work off of, so that way I don't get a ton of acrylic trapped in that well area. So what we need to do is take this bead, and we are going to push and pull and tap until I feel like it is covering this base toenail piece enough to where when I go ahead and continue and build out, I feel like, hey, these would be cool as sidewalls, or this is what I think the width of her real nail would be. Okay, gotta establish that straight up. Okay, so I'm spending a lot of time pretty much tucking in the cuticle areas. Even if you feel like, hey, there's no nail there, you need to make sure everything is tucked so you can have a nice clean finish and a consistent one when you go ahead and file. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, I am waiting for it to dry. I like to work with the acrylic all the way up until it's almost dried, especially in this case, because I need to go underneath and make sure that acrylic is not just settled in that little circle area. Okay, that's not what we want. So my brush size is a size 20. If you have a smaller brush, this is probably going to be a little bit harder for you to do, just because the body of your brush not only is thinner and less dense, but it's also smaller, and the bristles might be a little bit shorter. So just know, if this is a technique you're going to use with a small brush, it still might take you a significant amount of time. So yeah, so because I needed to dry a little bit, I often like to move on to something else. In this case, because she already came pedicured previously with polish, I'm just going to go ahead and shape up those little toes while this big toe is drying. Now, I did give her the option of removing the polish, and I can repaint everything all at once, but like I said, she already recently had a pedicure, so the polish was still pretty fresh, and her nails were also the same color. So in this case, she just wanted me to go ahead and match some nail polish to the color she already has. Okay, so on the other foot, I'm not going to actually show that reconstruction, but the way that one is broken down, I believe she said at the beginning of the year she kind of was fooling around with the baby gate and stubbed her toenail in a way that was just not right, and boom. So she's concerned that it might not grow back. I told her, you know, typically toenails can fully take like a year to grow back. Now, she said this happened maybe in February, so honestly by now, I didn't want to give her too much hope because it just simply might not. But you never know, you know what I'm saying? So I told her maybe give it a couple or more months to see what's going on, and that will probably give you your answer. So now that this is a little bit more dried, I'm kind of taking my cuticle pusher and I want to go underneath and I want to lift the enhancement a little bit. Again, the reason why I am doing this is because in that little area, right, it is like a little circle divot, and I want to make sure that this acrylic doesn't just settle and dry into it. Although her toenail is not going to grow out and it won't cause that much discomfort, if she wears tennis shoes or if anything happens, like any pressure she feels, it will feel uncomfortable there. So all the white part that you see is just like randomly coming up. That's where it's no longer just stuck down onto the skin. Okay, this is something that you want to remember because everyone's anatomy of their actual toenail is not only different, but the reconstruction itself sometimes has to be different from person to person. So there's like a couple of different techniques that I have, and I kind of use them as needed, you know, on each client. So in this particular case, I can see very well. Don't think I can't see it. I'm just poking and prodding. She's not in any pain or anything like that. You can see how it's lifting up a little bit. It's not all the way dry, so I did not want to make it so that way it attaches from like what we just attached it to, being her like the toenail that she has. But I really wanted to make sure that we get that out of that divot, a little dip. It's just not going to be comfortable, okay? And that's something you really have to think about when you're doing reconstructions. Now, you guys know me. I do not condone clipping or filing away toenail just because it's thick or because I want it to look as natural as possible. I believe that with acrylic toes, overlays, all that, you got to work what people have. Clipping and cutting away at what people have just to kind of suit your practices, to me, is just like a no-no, okay? So if you need to practice more, go ahead and practice, but I highly suggest that you do not cut and file people's toenails away just because, okay? Because it's gonna grow back in that same way, which is not going to leave them with a nice looking enhancement for long. So the next bead, I went ahead and started it where I left off, now that everything is drier, and I just am extending it down the tip so that way we have some more length. I am going to be doing a natural length enhancement on her, especially to match the other toenails. We don't never want to have just the big toe looking long and crazy and everything else looking nice and natural. That ain't the goal. So I'm just making sure everything matches up, everything lines up. I'm going to extend the acrylic on the tip once again, so that way we start getting the length that we need. Remember, you need to make the enhancement a little bit longer at first because you're going to have plenty of shaping and filing later, and you want to leave space for it to get shorter. Okay, it's nothing worse than filing something and you realize, damn, I done fucked up because I made it too short and now it looked really short, okay? So this is pretty much the easy part. So what I'm doing right now and showing you guys is building that like base layer so that later on when I'm done or close to done with this base layer, the acrylic that I put on top to smooth everything out gives us a nice smooth base, and it covers up any lumps and bumps from this base area. You do want to work nice and smoothly. Like, no matter what you're doing, you always want to make sure it's as smooth as possible, because again, you don't want any discomfort. And also, when you go in with new beads of acrylic, you also want everything to lay nice and flat and smooth so you can get your best results. Okay, I really hope that helped, that little tidbit of information. So we're gonna go in, I believe, with 2 more beads in just a sec. You can see I'm kind of make sure I lift the front up a little bit, because if not, if it's like, again, glued down to the skin, what's going to happen is it's going to be really hard for you to file, and also it's going to affect your final result. In the enhancement, it's going to look like it's sloping down, and we don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to end up laying another bead in the cuticle area. Although it's not for strength or anything, we need to meld everything together. So because we have 3 sections already, we need to go ahead on top with a thin layer so we can meld everything together and make sure any mistakes we have, you can cover it like this. So again, tuck everything into the cuticle area very nicely. Although that looked like a large bead, the way I am dispersing it makes sure that the enhancement is not thick. Okay, so after this bead, I'm going to go ahead at the tip and I'm going to pull it forward a little bit to even out that tip area for shaping purposes, and then I'm going to blend the rest back so that way we have a nice even balanced surface. So although this is like a pretty straightforward reconstruction, as far as I looked at it and I said I can give you a good result, no problem, because of the actual structure of what she has in her, not only the nail but like her actual skin and everything surrounding around, I had to realize, okay, this is going to take a little bit slower than I thought for that reason alone. Okay, so don't be in a rush to do this. Now this service that I have booked is about an hour and a half for the pedicure and the reconstruction and the polishing and painting, everything from start to finish. This will take me about an hour and a half, and so it's not too bad, you know. It's pretty quick in that sense. Some people's is shorter when they're like, you know, however their toenails are set up, but she was really surprised, you guys. She was shocked at how fast it was. She was shocked at how nice the result was, and I'm so glad I was able to make her feel good, because like I said, this foot alone, I think she said it had been like 10 years, and that she doesn't wear too many open-toed shoes, always wears like a band-aid. So I was really grateful and happy that she was happy with her results. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I believe she found me on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, because when she got that second injury, I think she said she was looking for ways of maybe how to fix it or something, and she realized that, you know, she was only maybe like an hour and a half from me, so she decided to come on down, which is much appreciated. It always surprises me when I have subscribers that like book me, you know, so that's kind of tight. We're pretty much getting close to the end. We are going to go ahead and file in a second. I'm just showing you guys that you need to kind of keep on working with it, because yeah, even though it might not look the best now, you have to understand how can I make this better. So I decided to go in with one more little tiny bead at the tip, just so that way I can further help some of those corners to square out. If I didn't do this, it would not have ended in as square of a result, or something may have been a little bit I don't want to say tapered in, but it wouldn't have been as straight, if that makes sense. And you know, that's fine, do what you have to do. So now you guys are gonna see, I'm gonna go ahead and start e-filing, doing my finished filing. And the cuticle area is super important. Now some people's cuticle area, right, when they're getting reconstructions, it does not sit as flush as it would if there wasn't one, because again, that bottom sliver of nail typically ends up being really thick, just for the simple fact of that's what happens when your toenails, any nail, starts to regrow. It starts out looking thick and then it just thins out over time. But that's why you have to take your cuticles the right way, because you can see the angle at which I am holding my e-file. You want to make sure it is nice and flush and that you are getting in there. If you are holding it to where like you feel like it's almost high in the sky, like the back end of where you're holding it is tipped up high, you are, number one, going to cause a little bit of damage, and number two, you might actually flake a lot of the acrylic away, you know, and you might cause it to look thicker than what it is, because if you don't file it, like you see how I'm going around nice and smoothly in a certain motion, it will almost look like a thick lump of whatever. Okay, so as far as the hand filing, you need to keep that file straight up against what's already there. And yeah, honestly, it's pretty self-explanatory. Be careful, you don't want to cut them, which is why I like to make sure that I do allow a little bit of space, so that way the enhancement is not straight up like molded to the skin, or you will cut them during the filing portion, which is okay. Like it happens, you know, kind of just clean it up and go about your day, but we would not like to do that preferably. So with the tip, because I did go ahead and add that extra little acrylic up there, when I go and file the tip, it's gonna look so nice and crisp, and I was just extremely happy with this results. Like, y'all, I was smiling the whole time doing this, like legit. And so was she. So shaping and filing as normal, and you guys will start to realize your reconstructions are doing well when people are coming back for fills and you can check up on your work. Now for this client, because that toenail doesn't grow, I did tell her, you know, you can come back in about 4 weeks. That's typical standard, 4 weeks. And because her polish is going to definitely be grown out. And I told her, we'll look at the toenails and assess, But if someone has toenails that don't grow, honestly, you can just tell them to probably come at like 5-6 weeks. Just because, I mean, if the nail doesn't grow, then you might as well just wait a little bit longer and then soak it off and start again, if that makes sense. Hold on a second. Y'all, I'm so thirsty. So, I mean, there's really not too much to it. You can see that it's not a loose enhancement. You can see that it's anchored down really well. And some people are going to have enhancements that, you know, maybe it is a little bit more wiggly, depending on the type of damage they have, depending on what each client's case is. But typically I like to do that test because I don't want it to be so wobbly to the point of where that makes me nervous of like, hey, you need to be careful. Or dang, what was I gonna, you guys, I'm sorry, it's like I woke up not too long ago. But anyways, you want to make sure it's nice and sturdy. You want to make sure everything is nice and flush, nice and flat, and you can pretty much see like this looks really good compared to what she just had. So do not be scared to get in these areas and file nicely. The biggest mistake people make with acrylic toes is that they're far too wide for what's already there. You know, we want to make sure everything is nice and flush and not bulbous. And I really hope this video helped. I really hope you guys found this a little bit interesting. I know it is a longer video, especially about a reconstruction, which you guys have seen me do many times, but it seems like there's a lot of people that relate to these videos because I keep telling people it just takes one time and that could be your toenail for life, you know? So educational purposes, I feel like everyone should see this. So this is the final result. I'm checking it from the other side. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Don't forget, we got not polished code now. Okay, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video.